Hello and welcome to Update X, where I talk to you about what's been going on in the video game industry over the past week. Uploaded every Monday morning on YouTube and podcast platforms. I'm your host, Brennan Reshitar, at The Only Resh on Twitter and basically everywhere else. Today is your update 10.4 for October 26th, 2020, where I'll be talking about Western media finally getting sent PS5's, lots of new details about Godfall, unskippable ads in NBA 2K21, and more. Let's get into it. And we're going to start with the unskippable ads in NBA 2K21. And earlier this month, or last month, whichever it was, I talked about ads in UFC 4. Those ads were implemented after the game released, and they were just like 1 or 2 second logo flashes for The Boys Season 2. So that one wasn't anything too crazy, but still a bad move overall. And last week, players started seeing ads in NBA 2K21 during loading screens before playing a game. And I'm grabbing info on it from an article by IGN by Adam Bankhurst. And the ad on 2K21 wasn't just a quick flash of a logo for a second like the UFC 4 one. This was an actual 15-second ad for the Oculus Quest 2. And this is exactly what I gave as an example when I talked about the UFC ads. I said this quick logo flash may not seem like too big of a deal, but before you know it, we're going to have advertisements before every Call of Duty match. Well, granted, this is 2K21, so not exactly what I said, but it's a full 15-second ad before you start a match of 2K21. And this happened a lot quicker than I thought it would. What I gave last month, whenever that was more of a hypothetical. In the future, we could see this being how ads are implemented, but it's happening already in 2K21, and I'm not totally surprised, just being the fact that it is 2K. And to make this even worse, usually during loading screens in NBA 2K games, you can edit your lineups while you wait, which is a nice feature for loading screens in any game, but you can't even do that until the ad is finished here. You actually have to sit and watch the ad, and you can't even edit your lineup for that period of time. And also, just like the UFC ad, it wasn't implemented into 2K21 until after the game was already released, so reviews of the game do not include that the game has ads during loading screens. Yet another bad move, and making yourself look even worse for doing it this way. I don't understand what makes them think this is the best way to do it. Implementing it after the game's already out, putting it in loading screens where usually you can edit your lineup and actually still be a part of the game. It's not just a blank loading screen. They are greatly hindering the player's experience of the game this way, and I don't think this was nearly the best way to do it at all. And another thing to add on to the list of reasons it's worse is it's not like the game doesn't make any money either. It's still a full price game. It's $60 and has plenty of microtransactions. IGN's review of the game back in September gave it a 6 and noted its, quote, persistent addiction to obnoxious microtransactions. And if you want it on a next-gen console, it's $70. And if you want to get an upgradable current-gen version, you have to buy the $100 version of the game to get that free next-gen upgrade. So it's not a free-to-play game where they can just put in ads and microtransactions all over the place. It's still a full-price game that people are paying for. And I don't really play sports games much anyway, but I take action like this as a slap in the face to your players. Not the fact that the ads were put into the game, because for all we know that may become the norm eventually, but the fact that they did it like this, like I was saying a second ago. After reviews were already out, you can't edit your lineups during the ad, and you can't skip it at all. And this is one of the first games to do this, and it's already this bad. But I doubt 2K really cares or will bother to throttle this back very much anyway, because if they put the ads in there in the first place, they obviously don't care how they're going to be in there. They're just going to put the ads in there any way that they can. And the NBA 2K Twitter account did respond to the controversy, saying, quote, yesterday's 2K TV ad placement impacted our players' experience in a way we didn't intend, as these ads are not meant to run as part of the pregame introduction. These will be fixed in future episodes. Thanks for your continued feedback. I would be willing to bet money that this is 100% the way they intended to do it, and they're just saying this was the wrong placement because of the backlash they're getting for it. Of course, they're going to try and be as aggressive as they can right off the bat just to see what they can get away with, because why wouldn't they? So I don't believe for a second this was an accidental placement of this. They just went hard right at the beginning to see what the reaction would be, and then kind of apologize for the backlash after the fact. And one more interesting point brought up about this recently is how this will go with next-gen consoles, considering they will be using an SSD, which means there won't be almost any load times, so there won't be as much room for these ads. And how will they push more money-making stuff like this into the game? Because the question isn't if they will, it's how are they going to inevitably do it? And I think loading screens out of any part of a game are probably the most reasonable place to put in an ad because you're just sitting there waiting for it to load anyway. But with load screens not being a thing, for the most part next gen, it's going to be even worse wherever they end up putting the ads. I think it was Blessing or maybe Tim from Kinda Funny that brought up this point, so I wanted to include it in here because it is a really interesting question, but an answer that we will have to be disappointed by at a later date. And jumping on from that, we've got some news about the PS5 Share Factory and how it will support 4K and HDR video editing. I'm grabbing the info from a Push Square article by Sammy Barker. And if you don't know what Share Factory is, it's currently a PS4 app where you can do some video editing and effects with your own game footage. So you can create some of your own video content with voiceovers, transitions, and all that for platforms like YouTube without needing a computer, which is a really cool ability for people that don't have a PC to be able to edit their own content and start creating stuff. And an image came up on Reset Era recently showing a free product listing for Share Factory Studio, and you can find the app on the web version of the PlayStation Store, which has been updated recently. And specifically Share Factory Studio for PS5, not PS4's Share Factory. And it does say the new PS5 version includes 4K HDR support, and you can add stickers, text, sound effects, filters, camera effects, and more to share with YouTube, Twitter, or directly to your friends in GameBase. GameBase being that new Friends menu that we saw in the PS5 UI reveal recently. And it also says use the photo editor to customize and share screenshots that create your own unique memes. So I think that actually has some pretty good potential for content creation in either video form or, like they said, memes or screenshots or whatever it is. And with the new Share Factory, you can also use the updated Toolbox feature to import your own videos, images, music, and sound effects from a USB storage device. So overall, I think this is a really awesome step forward for getting into content creation as a gamer. And this makes it so much easier to start out, and it makes it much more accessible since you don't need a PC or any kind of crazy editing software. So I'm really excited to see more people start to get creative and share some cool stuff with the community with PS5's Share Factory Studio. And now we're going to get into that new info on Godfall from IGN. So the main idea for all that they got was new details on loot, progression, and making, quote, the Tinkerer's Dream. It's an IGN article by Jonathan Dornbush. And fair warning, I get really in-depth with this info, so if you don't care about Godfall, just skip to the next story. But if you want some specific details, this is a deep story. And I said before, I really want to like this game, but I've been on the fence about it for a little bit. And this info helped a little bit. I'm still not 100% on it quite yet, but more than likely I probably will get it. And like I said a second ago, the main idea stated from the technical producer Richard Hain was they wanted Godfall to be the Tinkerer's Dream. Anybody who loves to get intimate with their loot and put the pieces together and see the numbers and see the impact immediately, that's the kind of game we wanted to create. And that is really good to hear from them, and personally I love getting deep into the customization and making the perfect build, but only if the gameplay loop in that game is fun. If the gameplay isn't good, I won't care nearly enough to make the perfect build and grind for better equipment. So gameplay is what I'm really wanting to see more of to really sell me on Godfall, but again, this is still good to hear. And then Hain also talked about their focus on making the gear look cool and making you feel like a badass. And some of the armor pieces we've already seen in Godfall look great, and that is part of the reason I want to like the game so much, is that it looks incredible visually between the art style, the gear pieces, the graphics as a whole, because it is a PS5 exclusive, so it's only on next gen. And they also talked about the skill tree in Godfall, which works differently than most skill trees I've seen. It's a 5x5 grid, and you start at any one of the four corners and go from there towards the middle. And Hain said, quote, we really just wanted there to be maximal flexibility. We wanted to avoid choice paralysis because Godfall combat can be quick, it can be snappy, it's action-packed, and if every 2 levels you're having to open the UI menu, read each individual skill, decide the best path for you, it wasn't synonymous with what Godfall is, and it would really hinder the player's experience. And probably the best part about their skill tree is that you can respec or reset your skill tree at any time without using any kind of in-game currency or anything weird like that. So if you're not feeling a particular build you made with your skills, and you can start over in the skill tree and switch it up whenever you want. And this way you also don't feel like if you go a certain path in the skill tree and use up all your skill points, and then you kind of just feel like you're stuck with that bad decision if you end up not liking whatever you chose. So I love having that ability to experiment with different playstyles in games like this. And also there are different Valor plates, which are like special armor pieces for your character, and each Valor plate has its own skill tree, and skill points do carry over from one Valor plate to the next in a universal system, so you don't have to worry about grinding for levels with each individual one. So as you get skill points, say you've earned 10 skill points using a Valor plate, if you switch to another Valor plate after that, you will have those 10 skill points to use on that separate skill tree for that Valor plate. Which is great because I hate when games have a repetitive grind where you have to start from the beginning of something that you've already done once or more times with another character, another weapon, class, or something like that. So skill points carrying over for these Valor plates is very good news to me. And also Hayne noted that the intent isn't to have players fill out the entire grid by the end of the campaign, but of course can work toward improving their build in the post-game. So it's good to hear we won't be bored and run out of things to do once we finish the campaign. We will still have more grinding to do for skills and loot and stuff like that. And there is also an augment constellation system on top of the skill grid, which expands the build customization even further. And as far as gear goes, you will be able to equip different weapons, life stones, rings, charms, amulets, banners, again, those constellation augment options, and another thing called trinkets. So there's a lot of different gear to put into your build that'll change it in a bunch of different ways. And you can swap out weapons and other equipment mid-mission, which is a weird thing to clarify, but some games don't do that, so it's good to confirm that they are going to let you change it out whenever you want, because when Anthem first released, it didn't let you change your gear in a mission. You had to set up your loadout before you go into a mission, and you couldn't change anything until you got out of it. Thankfully, in an update about a month or two, I think, after the game launched, they did add that ability. I don't know why they didn't put it in there in the first place. And you can also upgrade and enchant your equipment, and you can think of upgrading as leveling up your weapon, and enchanting as boosting it to the next rarity level. Hayne commented on this saying, quote, "If there was a piece of loot that you really liked and you wanted to use for an extended period of time, we wanted to make sure there was some ability to bring that weapon with you throughout the game." Which is good, again, because you always hate finding a piece of gear that has better stats than a really cool looking one you've been using for hours, or one that just has a good flow and a good combat style that you like to stay with. And having to say goodbye to that for the better stats is never something we all want to do. So I do like having this option to upgrade and bring gear forward with you as you progress in Godfall. And we were also told that there are 125 weapon options, and you can have 2 in your loadout at any time. So we've got some decent options there. And Hayne's closing statement was, quote, "One of our core philosophies will always be the tinkerer's dream. If there's the appetite for that, for the player to continue experimenting, we want to just make sure that the playground's open and you're ready to play." So overall, Godfall is sounding like a game where you can have a very particular playstyle, and you will be able to do a lot of experimenting with different abilities and gear, which I love to hear. And all gear is obtainable through gameplay. There are no microtransactions in Godfall, which is another good thing to hear. And all of that gear, all of that content is available day one. There will be post-launch DLC. We don't know much about it yet. All we know is there is at least one post-launch DLC, and that is happening sometime in 2021. And that expansion is included with the Deluxe Edition and the Ascended Edition. You probably will be able to get it separately if you just get the Standard Edition of the game whenever it comes out. The Standard Edition, I think, is $70, and the Deluxe Edition is $80, which comes with the expansion. And then the Ascended Edition is $90, which comes with that DLC coming out next year, and it comes with a bunch of cosmetics. And like I said at the beginning, I probably will be getting the game, especially after getting this new info. Possibly the Deluxe Edition, because I'll probably want whenever that expansion is next year. I definitely wouldn't be getting the Ascended Edition because I don't care as much for like DLC cosmetics or anything like that, because They're cool to have because you bought them, and then I usually use them for maybe an hour or two, and then I switch back to a different cosmetic that I got somewhere else in the game. So probably the deluxe edition, if not just the standard edition for me. Very excited for it either way. And after that, we're going into Western media finally getting PS5s. So after a ton of influencers and media outlets have been getting the Xbox Series X recently, we've been wondering when we're going to see some real hands-on with the PS5. We saw some YouTubers from Japan earlier this month play a couple games in a very controlled environment on the PS5, where they had a PS5 set up and each of the 12, I think, Japanese YouTubers went in on their own time frames and got to play a little bit of Godfall, some of Balan Wonderland, I think, and one other game I don't remember, but they didn't see the UI, they didn't get to really mess around with the PS5 other than just playing a game on it. And they only got to see really what PlayStation wanted them to see, meaning we also only got to see what PlayStation wanted us to see. And just this last week, PlayStation finally sent real retail versions of the PS5 to various influencers and outlets like Greg Miller, Jeff Keighley, The Verge, GameSpot, IGN, and a ton more. We've been told basically nothing yet because I'm sure the embargo they're under is very strict on when they can talk about it. And it was very recent that they got sent the consoles, so I think because of course this podcast uploads on Monday, so of course on Monday probably we're going to see some unboxing videos and stuff like that. Because all we've seen so far posted is the box itself, the system, and basically that's it. But this means very soon we should be seeing some more gameplay, hearing some impressions and opinions on how it feels to use the PS5. And it all has me extremely excited because we are less than a month away from launch. I think it's 18 days now, so maybe 17 or 16 by the time this podcast goes up. And a side note on that, I'm even more excited for the PS5 because I finally caved and ordered an OLED TV, which is a huge upgrade over my current TV, so my games are going to look even more incredible. And I am very excited to play next-gen games on a PS5, on an OLED TV, with all that. And my wallet is a little bit less excited than I am, but I don't care. And after that, going into Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, getting a PlayStation timed exclusive Zombies mode. It's called Zombies Onslaught, and it's a 2-player only mode where you deploy to one of several locations derived from various multiplayer maps with your custom loadouts. A dark aether orb will confine your duo to a specific zone on the map where the undead will begin spawning in. Killing zombies powers the orb, kill enough zombies and the orb will move. While you're in the orb, you won't take dark aether damage from outside the specific map zone the orb protects, helping keep players alive as they fight increasingly difficult undead enemies, with each surge bringing more resilient, faster, and deadlier zombies. So the new mode sounds cool and all, but I mainly wanted to talk about the exclusivity of it. Naturally, as soon as this video was announced, plenty of people were coming at Call of Duty and PlayStation for excluding Xbox players from this content, but I don't see how anybody can be really surprised by this. If you don't remember, 2019's Modern Warfare had a Spec Ops survival mode exclusive to PlayStation for a year as well. So I honestly would have been pretty surprised, actually, if PlayStation didn't have some sort of exclusive content for the next Call of Duty. And just like the Modern Warfare mode, this new Zombies mode won't be available on other platforms for about another year until November 1st, 2021. And of course everyone is yelling anti-consumer at PlayStation, but really it can only be considered anti-consumer of Call of Duty at this point. PlayStation is giving their consumers more content, and Call of Duty is restricting some of their content to one platform. The last time this conversation came up was when Spider-Man was announced for Marvel's Avengers only on PlayStation. And just like in that situation, it's an inevitable part of business, really. Like, how do you convince gamers to buy your system instead of the other one? You entice them with content that is only available on that platform. And even though Phil Spencer has said that the Xbox isn't competing with PlayStation anymore, as we see Xbox focusing more on their services, like Game Pass and xCloud, I don't think that's entirely the truth, considering Microsoft just spent $7.5 billion buying ZeniMax Media recently, meaning they now own Bethesda and id Software and the other studios. So Xbox does still want to have exclusive content to persuade gamers to get an Xbox. In the future, you can bet that we'll see some similar exclusive moves by Xbox, most likely. And that's it for the news. Going on to gaming deals, Xbox has a Watch Dogs Legion hack sale with up to 70% off Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Rainbow Six Siege, The Division 2, and more. There are 10 days left in that sale, meaning it should end around November 5th, I think. Xbox never puts on the date of when it ends. And PlayStation has a Halloween sale with up to 60% off games like Diablo 3, Death Stranding, Days Gone, Doom Eternal, and more. That deal ends November 2nd. PlayStation's deal of the week is 33% off UFC 4. Remember, the game has small ads now. That deal ends October 29th. Nintendo has a Mega Man franchise sale with up to 60% off select Mega Man games for Switch ending October 29th. Alien Isolation is on sale for $20 for Switch until November 2nd. Nintendo also has a Ubisoft publisher sale with up to 75% off select Ubisoft games until October 31st. There is a Warner Bros. Game sale for Switch with up to 75% off some LEGO games, the Cars 3 game, and more until November 2nd. And lastly, Goner is 80% off on Switch until November 4th. And going into upcoming releases via Metacritic, Ghost Runner releases October 27th for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That game looks dope. I'll definitely be picking that one up. It's like a parkour slasher cyberpunk game. And Oddworld Abe's Odyssey New and Tasty releases October 27th for Switch. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 releases October 27th for PS4. Cobra Kai The Karate Kid Saga Continues releases October 27th for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Watch Dogs Legion releases October 29th for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I keep thinking that it's a next-gen launch title, so I keep forgetting that it releases so soon. And Grim Fandango Remastered and Full Throttle Remastered both release for Xbox One October 29th. Pikmin 3 Deluxe releases October 30th for Switch. The Dark Pictures Little Hope releases October 30th for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. NHL 94 Rewind releases October 30th for PS4 and Xbox One. And Visage releases October 30th for PS4 and Xbox One. And going into what have I been playing, I have been playing a lot of games recently because I have been trying a handful of different games, trying to get one to stick because I want to get really into a game again. But mainly it's been Ghost of Tsushima Legends because I can't get enough of that game. The combat, the customization, the loot, there's a raid coming up this week. It is so good, and just like last week, I highly recommend trying this out. It is so much fun. And I've been playing Fall Guys a little bit, which is basically just once in a while to take a break from Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Still a fun time whenever I play Fall Guys. I tried out Final Fantasy Type 0 HD, and I was thinking about trying that game out for a couple weeks. And I finally ended up buying it, and honestly thought I would be more into it. The story seems kind of busy and a little hard to follow for me, but maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention. I didn't like the combat much so far, so I'm not sure if I'm going to get back into that one or not. And I also tried Warhammer Vermintide 2. There was a buddy of mine told me to get this game because it's on Game Pass. So I picked that one up. It's pretty much a really good time killer so far. It is fun to run through a level and get some new loot, level up my character, stuff like that. But again, just a pretty good time waster or something to play just while you're bullshitting with your friends. I also tried out Bless Unleashed, which is an MMORPG, another game I debated trying for a couple weeks. That's another free one. I finally downloaded it, and initially I love the customization for your character, from the facial features to the body size, even just hands, feet, and head, like size. You can create whatever body type, I guess, for your character that you want. That was really fun to play around with. And then it kind of just turned into random missions and busy work that I couldn't really get into that far. I might jump back into that one eventually, but not totally sure. So this has been your update 10.4 for October 26th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening on YouTube and podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and podcast feed so you don't miss an episode. Follow the show's page on Twitter and Instagram at UpdateXShow, and my personal Twitter page at TheOnlyResh. Thank you again for listening. Have an awesome week.